Recording is in progress. Great. So that in the future, if people ask, I can refer them to this, and or if anybody has a better way of doing it, or any other ideas, I'm totally open to that. I never stop learning, as most of us are. So, this is great. I've done this in person a few times here in Vegas. In fact, about 10 years ago, I did a seminar where I burned some CDRs, and we did a seminar, and I took on the CDR was the raw files and demo versions of the software for people to play. So, and a PowerPoint presentation as well, so that, like, I won't say it was idiot proof, but I made it as basic and as logical as I could, because it can be very confusing. The whole post process can be really daunting to a lot of people, and it still is to me too. To be honest, I'm no expert. I see what people are doing on these news groups and what other photographers are doing, and it blows my mind constantly. It's really amazing, and the software has gotten so good nowadays that it's mind blowing. Like, I got a friend, she takes iPhone pictures and uses either Instagram or Snapchat filters, and they look fantastic. It's like, oh my God, and it takes her, 5 seconds to do it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty damn good. So let me try something here. Let me try and share my screen. Can you guys see my screen? Hang on. Do you see Google Earth right now?
No, just your picture, just your video.
Oh, all right, hang on a second. Share screen. One participant can share at a time. Advanced share. Multiple participants can share simultaneously. And hello, Wes. How are you? Share screen. Oh, here we go. How about now? You guys see Google Earth? Are you guys seeing that?
See that?
You'll be looking at Las Vegas. These are this is my super top secret drone locations around the strip that I've been working on for the last 8 months now. So what you're looking at is controlled airspace, zero grid. These are all locations that I have been approved by the FAA to fly. It's an incredible blessing. It's been a 15-year dream of mine to do this. And these red lines you're seeing over the top, this is Mavericks helicopters flight paths. They're at 500 feet. And as you can see, they're just over the top of some of my footprints, which is quite terrifying at first to be flying a drone underneath moving active helicopters. But anyway, I'm going to minimize Google Earth, and I'm going to get into the seminar itself. So if I lose you, or if I'm full of shit, please tell me. Again, I'm no expert. I'm a one-trick pony. Real quick bio. My name's Cameron Grant. I discovered HDR myself in 2008 when I saw a guy named Trey Ratcliffe's images of the Austin, Texas fireworks, and my head hit the floor, and my life was changed, and I began doing HDR full time. I don't do weddings, car shows, fashion, real estate, product photography. All I do is HDR, and I've turned down work over the years as well. Screen sharing is paused. Hang on. And new share. Are you guys seeing a folder here with all my files in it?
No, still seeing Google Earth.
Oh, you're still seeing Google Earth. All right, hang on a second. Share. Advanced sharing options. Oh, damn it. I'll figure this out. Oh, here we go. How about now? Do you see that? This should be a folder. It's a folder that's got DNG files, and then it's got a bunch of processes in there too. Are you guys seeing that?
Yep.
Okay. Very well. Give me a moment. All right. Well, I'm just going to dive right in. Again, if you have any questions, or if I'm full of crap, tell me. So here are the DNG files. This is the 10 files that I uploaded to Dropbox. This is, I wouldn't call this any of these masterpieces. This is a part of a panorama I shot at a music festival last month here in Las Vegas. And here is that image. This is the image that we're going to putz around with today. This is a very dynamic image in regards to dynamic range. Is there anyone that doesn't understand what dynamic range means, perhaps, or just wants a quick refresher? Give me a second here. God damn it. So, oh, here we go. All right. So this is a plaque that I made for a gallery show years ago, for a gallery hang. And get this out of the way. So real quick, what is high dynamic range? Dynamic range refers to the difference between the brightest and the darkest parts of a scene that we are looking at. The human eye can see about 22 f-stops of light in any given moment, which means you can look up at the sun, and then you can look under a car in a parking lot at the dark shadows, and you can see all of that in one scene. The best cameras that we know of that we can purchase right now can see about 11 f-stops at best in a single frame. This is why your vacation photos always look weird. If you're on the edge of the Grand Canyon, for example, you can expose to the Grand Canyon and it is exposed properly, but you are a silhouette. Or you can expose for you or your subject. They are in good light and exposed properly, but the Grand Canyon will be blown out white. We've all seen this with our photos over the year. And the workaround for this is to shoot a set of images changing the shutter speed. And as you can see here, if you guys can see this, I'll zoom in a little bit on it. So here we have three images. Are you seeing these, dark, middle, and bright? Can everybody see that? You guys seeing this? Am I still on? Not muted.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, very well. So here you have, and the image in question here, I made this pretty simple. This is actually a 5-frame set. I only put 3 frames on this. So here are 3 frames shot off a tripod. This is sunrise up by Yosemite National Park. And as you can see, we've got dark, middle, and bright. Even on the dark frame over here on the left, we're still blowing out the sun, and I'm okay with that. But as you can see in the trees over here, it's almost black, and here in the foreground is almost black. Then here's the middle frame. The middle frame is what a standard photo would look like out of a camera with an exposure value of 0. This is what it's a decent photo. This is what a cell phone picture would probably look like if you shot it. And then over here, it's overexposed. And I believe that the dark image is down 2 f-stops, the middle is centered at 0 exposure, and the bright is up 2 f-stops. So we're covering a pretty wide dynamic range with the 3 images. These are then merged together, and you can see the result of that. Yeah. So here's the merge right here. This is the initial merge out of the software Photomatics, which is one that I used for about 12 years straight. It's a great software package, and we'll get into that in a moment. So there's the dynamic range being enhanced here. As you can see in the foreground here, you can see the grass in the foreground, and yet I'm still somewhat controlling the sun over here. And that, in a nutshell, is what is dynamic range. And this is a very dynamic range image. Let me give you an example of what is not a dynamic range image. Would be this one. This is a landscape shot from the Ivanpah Solar Farm south of Las Vegas. It's an amazing location. There are these huge towers that mirrors collect sunlight onto, and they glow like arc welders out in the sun. But though this is a dynamic image with the solar collector here in the middle, the overall frame here is pretty bland and flat. So you could apply HDR processing to this frame, but it really is not going to make it much better. I mean, it's just an average shot from my drone. And just a quick sidebar, there's 170,000 mirrors around each of these towers, and there's 3 towers down here. And unfortunately, it's a tremendous bird killing factory as well as they fly into the light beams. So that's not really a dynamic range image. And these are. So then down here, as I scroll down, back out a little bit. So that's the merge. That's the HDR merge, and then we go into post-processing. And this can be with any number of software packages: Photoshop, Lightroom, Luminar, Photomatics, PhotoGIMP. There's a whole bunch of photo processing software. I don't want to get too far into that today because what you use may not be what I use. For example, I'm not very good with Lightroom. I've been using Photoshop for 15 years, and that's what I edit with, and with plugins within that. And so then over here on the right is the final master of this file. And again, as I said in the description for this team call, this may not be your cup of tea. Here is the final of this. This is the final output of this image after about 2 months of post-processing on it. This was done, God, 12, 13 years ago at this point, and I look at this now and I'm like, man, this is shit. It's not really shit, I wouldn't say that, but there's fringing going on up here around the trees. This is beginner work for me, and I've sold many copies of this image, so I can't change it. It's a limited edition fine art print, but it was a lot of fun, and but that's the final. I don't expect any of you to go this far or even farther. If you want to keep the MP3 and go ape shit, that's fine. All I want to talk about today, we're going to get into, is nighttime HDR that I've been doing with my drone. And we can jump right into that in a second. Screen sharing has stopped. Hang on. All right. So you should be seeing my folder again. You are, it looks like. Okay, so what I did here, I used 4 different softwares to merge these 10 frames with DNG files. And I'm going to show you those right now. These are basic merges without any post-processing done on this nighttime scene of the music festival. The festival is called Life is Beautiful, and it was this was their 10th year anniversary here in Las Vegas. So the first thing we're going to do is go to Lightroom, and this is all 10 frames. If you're seeing this. This is all 10 frames merged in Lightroom. And one of the challenges with merging 10 frames, there's twofold. One, shooting from a drone, we're basically shooting what we call handheld, so the drone is moving around. Even in no wind, at 200 or 300 feet up in the air, the drone is wobbling around. So your alignment of your images becomes a challenge, and the software are very good at that. The second thing with doing 10 frames, if I can get back out of here, is that we don't need all 10 of these frames here, okay? And this is I don't know how many of you are drone pilots, but DJI, the manufacturer that I shoot with, they suck in that they only let you have 0.7 f-stops between your frames. So if I do a 5-frame set on my DJI drone, I have between each frame is 0.7 f-stops, and that is too fine. It's too close. You don't need that level of the definition between the light. The software doesn't need that fine of a thing. So you're basically over processing by putting 10 frames at a 0.7 f-stop spread into these merging software. So what I've come up with is I shoot 2 5-frame sets on my drone. The first set is, I call the bottom of the set. It's down here. These are the dark frames, okay? Then the second set of 5 is the top of the set, which is the bright frames. And what we're doing is, if I go to the darkest frame in here and open this right here, the dark frames control the highs, and the high frames control the darks. So by shooting this way underexposed, this is at negative 3.3 f-stops on the drone on a 5-frame set centered at -2. I'm controlling these highs here, here, over here, and down here, whatever this is, down in this area, okay? Conversely, or inversely, on the top of the set, let me get rid of this. Oh, there we go. On the top of the set, over here, which you should now be seeing, I'm controlling the darks. So this is the overexposed frame. This is at plus 3.3 f-stops on a 5-frame set, centered at +2 on the exposure value of bracket. Is everybody cool with this? Am I getting ahead of you, or are we all understanding what I'm talking about here? So On the bright frame, the top of the top of the set, I call this. I'm controlling these darks down here. I'm bringing them out. I'm controlling these darks over here on the roof. They're not just black holes. And I'm also bringing out the sky. And in the sky, I can bring this up. Hang on one second. Sorry. In the sky, I am inducing noise, lots and lots of noise. And this becomes a problem with the nighttime HDR. Even if you force your ISO to 100, which is lower noise, you're still going to get noise in your darker frames. How can I see this? Anyway, back here, you can now see in the sky right here that there's a lot of noise in the sky. And that's a challenge. And there's several ways to deal with that. You can process these frames individually with noise reduction and sharpening before you merge them in HDR. I have run some experiments. For me personally, I like to merge them, get them stacked right and aligned where I want them, and then apply noise in this order: noise reduction and sharpening. So now I'm going to go back over here to these files that I took the liberty of already editing, or merging, I should say. Give me a moment. Bear with me. Okay, so here, okay, this is these are just basic merges. Okay, this is Lightroom. I'll move this. Oh, good. Here we go. This is Lightroom 3 frames. Okay, this is Lightroom 5 frames stacked together. This is Lightroom all 10 frames stacked together. And don't judge these frames, what I'm showing you right here. Say, well, that's better than that. This is just straight out of the merging software. All we're doing here is stacking and aligning the source frames. Okay. Moving forward, this is Luminar, which is my new favorite editor, and I love it. This is 3 frames in Luminar. This is 5 frames in Luminar, and this is all 10 frames. I'm sorry, this is Photomatix, my bad. So we're moving to a different software, my bad. Photomatix is the one that I've used for so many years. It's made in Netherlands, and it's a great software package for HDR. They give you a bunch of basic fundamental editing tools such as brightness, contrast, color, straightening, cropping, all kinds of fun stuff you can do within Photomatix. It was designed, or it is designed, to be a standalone package for HDR editing. I kind of evolved beyond that and went back into Photoshop with plugins. This is Photomatix 3 frames right here. And as you can see, there's a watermark on here. I'm using the demo version. And I may actually go buy the new Photomatix. This is 5 frames in Photomatix. This is Photoshop, and this is 10 frames in Photoshop laid together. This is 5 frames in, or sorry, 3 frames in Photoshop. This is 5 frames in Photoshop. So they all look different, and again, it's your choice what you want to use. If you're fluid or fluent, I should say, in Lightroom, then do your editing and do your merging in Lightroom and have fun with that. I'm not here to judge any package. I look at what I do as like being a mechanic. I have an auto shop and I have a bunch of different tools. I may have Craftsman tools. I may have cheap tools from Harbor Freight. I may have expensive tools. Whatever tool does the job is the tool that I'm going to use. In my experience, for what I do, again, there is no one size fits all. Some tools are better at merging. Some tools are better at stitching panoramas. Some tools do better noise reduction and sharpening. So it's whatever does the job that you're comfortable with. Some of you may be shooting real estate where you don't want to do this over the top stuff that I do. That's great. You have to find what works for you. And just like any other craft, excuse me, we have to do this over and over and over to get great at it and become fluent and comfortable. Does anybody have any questions before we go into some processing here? Okay. So I'm going to do a merge right now. I'm going to demo. Let me demo a merge in a second. Hang on. Let me close some stuff. I'll be right with you. A bunch of stuff open on my computer. It's probably going to crash. All right. Here's Zoom. All right. So in the DNG files, And you guys should be seeing these ENG files. I'm going to go and I'm going to open Luminar. I'm going to start with Luminar, which is my, and we'll do Lightroom, Photoshop, and Photomatic here in a moment. I'm just going to rock through these as quickly as I can. All of these editing packages have pretty much the same hierarchy, I want to say, in that you import files, you open files, you manipulate the files, and then you do something with the files. Second. Oh, you should be seeing my Luminar screen right now. This is something I was working on last night, actually. I was out shooting. And Luminar keeps asking me to upgrade, and I always wait a couple of weeks because it's usually buggy. I wait for the bugs to be fixed out before I'll upload the latest version of it. And quick sidebar, Luminar is being developed in a war zone in Ukraine, so they deserve a little love and sympathy if they don't react so fast. So let me close this.
I updated it, man. That neon and glow is pretty awesome.
Thanks. All right, so I'm going to import some frames here. Catalog section. Add photos. Add images. And here's the Nighttime Seminar. Okay, so here's my 10 frames. Again, you don't need all 10 frames with a DJI product for HDR. What I'm coming to, and again, I'm still learning this like all of us are. Every day I'm learning more. So here's the top of the set, these 5, and here's the bottom of the set, these 5. What I'm coming to is a 4-frame set, which is the top of the top set, the top of the bright set, the next one down, which is more or less a middle frame. Again, as I spoke about earlier, like if you took a cell phone picture or a single frame at 0 exposure, it looks something like DJI 108 here. And then over here in the dark side of the set, I'm going to take 114 and I'm going to take 113, which is one of the darkest frames of the set. And what this is going to give me when I open these in a moment in Luminar, Luminar shows you your exposure values, which is very handy. Here's the 4 frames. I'm taking them into the HDR module over here on the right. And as you can see, I've got negative 3.3, negative 7, negative 0.7, my bad, plus 0.7 and plus 3.3. So I've got a pretty wide range of dynamic range here. Assuming that the Hasselblad camera on my DJI Mavic 3 Classic, let's say it has 10 f-stops of light. At negative 3.3, that puts me down to about negative 13-ish. And at plus 3.3, that puts me to plus 13-ish with 10 f-stops. So that's about 20 f-stops of light that I'm gathering in this scene. Personally, for me, I would like this bright frame here, the plus 3.3 frame, to be even brighter. And I'm still figuring this camera out. On my Canon DSLR, I'm able to take the ISO up and take the shutter speed up to all the way to 30 seconds on the Canon on a tripod and literally blow the highs out of the high frames. I'll figure that out eventually with the drone. But so for now, I'm going to merge these. In the settings, you want to use auto alignment. Always do that because, again, you're handheld and the drone is wobbling. Chromatic aberration. This is things like vignetting and lens anomalies and whatnot. I always put that on. Ghost reduction. This is a thing with HDR, moving people, branches, leaves, cars, clouds. This is a personal choice. Usually, 85% of the time, I like ghosts. I like ghosts because they impart motion and create a sense of some drama in the frame. And this is just an artistic decision on my part. If you're shooting real estate, exteriors of homes, and on a windy day, you don't want any ghosts. You want to turn ghost reduction all the way up so that the branches on the trees aren't all blurry and making weirdness in your frame. So ghosting is a personal choice. So I'm going to merge these images. This is a 4-frame merge. It'll take a minute. Is anybody here using Luminar while we're waiting?
Yeah, I use it.
It's wonderful.
Like I said, I already updated, man. I used the neon glow. It's pretty nice, the manual brush.
Right on. Oh, well, then on your advice, I'll download it after this today then.
Yeah, it's not too, I didn't see any bugs or anything like that. No shutdowns or nothing.
Right on. it's just every time a release comes out, I read on their page on the Facebook, it's like, oh man, it crashed, my machine crashed, it won't load. And I'm like, I'll just wait, I'll give it a week or two. And I think all software
Yeah,
is like that.
yeah, but I haven't seen nothing significant. I think I downloaded it like a week or two ago.
Okay, so we have an HDR merge somewhere in here. Where the hell did it go? I think this is it right here. This is it right here. So we now have the 4 frames put together in Luminar. And if I zoom in on this, you can see that the alignment's pretty damn good. And I've got some noise going on this canopy right here. You can see noise. Any of the darker, or I should say neutral areas of the frame, you're going to see noise. I'm actually seeing noise in the bright sections over here too. If I zoom out and then zoom in on the sky, there's noise. All right. So, and the other thing that's happening here, and this is just a basic photography thing having nothing to do with HDR, is barrel distortion. The horizon is bowed and the buildings are tilting, and that's because the camera was tilted down. I was at about, I think this is from about 200 feet or maybe 300, and the gimbal is pointing down, so therefore I'm getting barrel distortion. And that's just a fact of optics and physics and cameras, and there are ways to fix this. Right now, I'm not going to deal with that bowing and with the horizon. That's like final post work I typically do on that. But I'm going to save this image. Okay, I'm going to export this to our seminar folder, which is somewhere over here. And I'm going to name this. Real quick sidebar for those of you who are not real fluent with HDR and file management. The naming of files with this stuff is mission critical. Right now, it's trying to name it DJI 0105-HDR. That's an unacceptable name because when I get 3,000 images in folders, I'm never going to find it. Instead, I'm going to name this Life is. So now I have, did I spell it right? I did not. So at least now I know what I'm looking for if I, fuck it, there it is. So that file is now saved, and back over here, I have Life is Beautiful Test HDR. So that's Luminar, okay? And I'm going to shut this down, and now I'm going to go real quick to Lightroom. And again, if I'm going too slow or going too fast, you guys tell me. I just wanted to demonstrate how these packages do different things. There's different algorithms, there's different software. One of the reasons I love Luminar is, and I'm just theorizing here, is that it's a more modern and robust platform. I don't know how to. Lightroom and Photoshop are fantastic. We've been using them for years, and I won't call them old or antiquated because they certainly are not. But they're building on a platform of 20-year-old technology. Again, not discounting them. Luminar just seems to, for what I do, Luminar just seems to kick ass. So here's these 4 files coming into Lightroom. The top of the bright set, the brightest frame, next one down. Then on the darkest set, the darkest frame, and the next one up, which is kind of the middle. These 2 frames here, 108 and 114, are in the neighborhood. So there's my dynamic range. And we already know from Luminar that I've got -3.3, -0.7, +0.7, and +3.3. That's the exposure value of these frames. I'm going to review for import. I'm going to import these, allegedly. I'm going to add the 4 photos. They show up on my film strip. I'm going to highlight all 4 of them or select all 4. And I'm going to do a photo merge to HDR. All right, and this will take a moment. And I'm going to ask, this is actually good that I'm doing this right now because I'm going to get you guys' opinion. When these same 4 frames done with a nominal merge in 4 different software packages, what do you think is better? I mean, again, it's a matter of opinion. So what? I can't hear you. Speak up if you're talking. All right. So check this out, you guys. Here's what's going on here. The de-ghosting in Lightroom is affecting the sky in this image. It's also, I got a shit ton of noise over here. If I take this de-ghosting down, watch this weird blob, this amoeba here, go away. And I don't know what this is or why it's doing it. If somebody does, please speak up. So there's my sky back to semi-normal here. So I'm over de-ghosting. It's all I could theorize here. That all right. So I'm going to merge these. Oh, and I've got auto settings on here. I'm going to turn that off because now what are we seeing here? It just got very dark. I don't have a scientific answer for you. I think it's because I'm using DNG files and I didn't convert them to TIFF first, that Lightroom's having an issue with the process. But if I re-engage auto, it goes back to a semi-normal looking HDR. The weirdness here is that I have already let Lightroom make a creative decision on this image without my input. I don't have any control over what the auto settings are on this merge. So Lightroom's like, well, here's what you want, and I may not want that. I may, for example, have to then go in and take these yellows out of the buildings by hand, or these purples down here, or the blues that are now blowing out. I'm over bluing. But regardless, I'm going to go ahead and push forward. So here's the merge on that, and performing the merge. You can see the upper left, allegedly. Is this making sense for people? Any of this? I hear a little person. And I'm now going to save this. Export one photo. Oops. Export. I'm going to export this as original with settings. This folder. Let me see if I got it. I got something. Oh, it saved it as a DNG. I'm going to delete that DNG. I want this. Hey, can we turn our mics off, please? Somebody's got a mic up. Oh, it went away. Thank you. Back to Lightroom. That. I'm going to export this as a JPEG for now, as a large JPEG into this file. It's into the Nighttime HDR Seminar. If I go to that, it didn't give me a naming opportunity. Where are we? Here it is. So I'm now going to give me a moment, guys. I'm sorry. On this first one I did, I'm going to rename him Luminar. On this next one, I'm just going to name it Lightroom. I'm going to close Lightroom and go to Photoshop now, allegedly. And I know there's a new Photoshop Elements of people. Is anybody using that yet? Looks pretty interesting. Here's Photoshop. Maybe. My cheap computer is not happy this morning. I tend to break computers, so I go through it pretty quick. Nighttime HDR Seminar, DMGs. Okay, again, here's the 4 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to open those. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done it that way. Hang on. Forgot here. Oh, here we go. Great. It's prompting me. First of all, I think this is camera raw we're looking at because these are DMG files. So here's my 4 frames. I'm going to select all of them, allegedly. There. And I'm going to right click and do a photo merge to HDR. Okay, so now we're going to let Photoshop do the merge, and I'll save that as a large JPEG as well. And here is the result of that. Photoshop does a damn fine job of merging. Again, I've got the Align Source Images tab checked here and Apply Auto Settings with deghosting off. Interestingly, last night when I started doing this, if I go to hide deghosting, my sky goes wonky again. Watch this when it updates. This may be an Adobe issue. It may be the way I'm doing this with DNG files. I'm not sure. eventually it may complete its task. And there you go, the sky's wonky. So if I select any other deghosting other than high, the sky should de-wonkify itself and it should go back to some semblance of normal. And there you go. So I'm going to leave this as it is. And again, here's auto settings again. I'm letting Photoshop make the decisions. And you can see the image go dark when I take it. This has got to be a DNG issue or a photo raw thing. So either way, I'm going to leave it as is. And I'm going to go to merge for the purposes of moving forward here. Nighttime Seminar, file. See, here it's letting me name it. So I'm going to name this. Okay. Oh, and it's trying to save it as a DNG. Do I have any? I don't. See, it's forcing me to save as a DNG. Give me one moment. So I've merged it, merged to HDR, did that. And then if I hit done, let me see if it's going to give me the option to save it as a TIFF file. Huh. In the folder. Interesting. Oh, here it is. No, that's Photoshop. Give me one moment. I don't see that file in here. So back in Photoshop, I think I lost it. One moment. Okay. Photomatics, photo, PS. I think I lost the file. All right, let's do it again. Sorry about this. Let me open. Let me try this a slightly different way. I want to go in Photoshop. I want to go File, Automate, Photo Merge. No, not Panorama. A second. Merge to HDR Pro. There we go. All right, now I'm going to browse for those files again. Here is the top of the set. Oh, not that. That's an HDR. Oh, that might be the Photoshop one right there. It is, regardless.
I saw you saved it as GPG.
Say what?
I saw you saved it as GPG file, so that's probably why you can't find it.
Right, exactly. So let me go back and do a remerge here in the way I've been using it here in Photoshop. So it's 1, 2, sorry, my bad. 1, 2, 3, 4 on my source frames. Again, negative 3.3. This zoom stuff's getting in my way. I wish I could hide it. I bet I can't. But do around. All right, here we go. We're going to merge, attempt to automatically align source images, always on with a drone shot because you're handheld. Get this out of the way. If I flatten it, what happens? Oh, here we go. It's still working. I tend to rush. And I'm going to hit OK. Oh, silky looking. That's weird. Okay. Convert. Oh, here. Okay, so here's what it's doing. It merged it as a DNG file, and then it just converted it to something else, which is what we're looking at right here. Very interesting. Can I save this file? Save as. And here we go. Now I have a selection of things. I'm going to save it as a JPEG for the purposes of editing to make things easier. And I'm going to name it Cool maximum to 15 megabyte file. Okay, that's fine. And I'm now going to stay in Photoshop. So now we're going to get into tweaking. Well, first, let's review these files. Give me a moment. Close these. I'll end up with a million windows open. So here's Photoshop 4 frames. Okay. Here is, where's Luminar? Fresh. I don't see my 4-frame saves. Did I save them in here? All right, it's of no consequence because we're going to jump into an edit here real quick on it before. My point of all this is that it doesn't matter what software you use to merge or stack your images, it's whatever you're comfortable with. They all have slightly different looks. It's like a Fender sounds a little different than a Gibson guitar, but can you play the guitar? That's what really matters. So in the meantime, I'm going to get into Photoshop here, and I'm going to close this file, and I'm going to open one from last night. I'm going to open the 3-frame Luminar tweak. Actually the 5-frame here. So this is a 5-frame tweak of this scene done in Luminar last night. Okay. And I'm just going to plunge straight into what I do for tweaking. Let me get this bar out of the way. All right. I broke it. And put it at the bottom. So anyway, here's the frame. This is Luminar 5-frame. So I'm using Topaz Noise and Sharpening AI. It's a $200 piece of software, which is a heavy hit for most of us, and it's a heavy hit for me. But in my humble opinion, it's the best noise reducer and sharpener that I've ever seen. The new Lightroom, fantastic sharpening and noise reduction. The new Photoshop, fantastic noise. I have not played with the new Photomatics. It has noise reduction and sharpening. From what I've done over the years and for what I do with my work, again, I'm only showing you what I do. I'm not telling you what you should do. Topaz is a #1, so I bought it. And so this is I'm going to open that right now and get this file into Topaz. I use it in autopilot. There are numerous controls you have over both the denoising and the sharpening functions of this plugin. Okay, and what it's doing right now is it's going to analyze this image, and it's going to suggest what I should do, and I happen to like its suggestions most of the time. I think I played with the sharpening parameters once or twice. I wanted less or more sharpening on the final image. So just to review, for those of you who aren't necessarily hip on noise reduction and sharpening, noise reduction is going to blur your image. It's taking pixels away from the image. It's softening the image. And you can see it right here. Let me stop sharpening. So we've reduced the noise, and on the right side of the frame is the noise reduced, and on the left is the noise. And as I move this back and forth, if I zoom in here, for example, if I can, yeah, here we go, it's way too far. Let me get in. I am in at, this is 400% magnification. If I go over here on this canopy right here, you can see the noise. And as I come back over here, oh wait, it didn't remove it, my bad, hang on guys. When you zoom around in this plugin, it wants to reprocess the preview window that you're looking at. And again, we have not processed this yet. It's just showing me a preview of what it intends to do with the noise reduction. And this will take a second. Again, backing up, you can noise reduce and sharpen your source frames, or you can merge and then do noise reduction and sharpening. I have not seen a noticeable improvement by spending the time on the source files, sharpening and noise reducing them. So now you can see the noise here. So if I scroll over here, there's the noise and the noise is gone. There's the noise is gone. So I'm going to remove the noise and then I'm going to sharpen the image. I don't see the point of sharpening noise. So I wouldn't sharpen first and then denoise. Does that make sense? So I'm taking pixels away and then I'm adding edges back with the sharpening. And that should be done here in a moment. And there's my preview. So again, left side of the frame is the source file, and Topaz just rocks. It's just absolutely incredible. I'm going to zoom back out to here's 200% magnification. Okay. And oh, it's reprocessing over here on the right. Give it a minute. And you'll notice I zoom around a lot. So now I'm all the way out here at 25%. So here I'm looking at this image like I would if I printed it and put it on a wall, or if somebody on their phone or their computer screen was going to look. They're not zooming in. If any of you have experienced pixel pickers, we call them, these are people who will zoom in on your image and tell you that you're doing it all wrong because a pixel is out of place. I have found that clients, collectors, and customers don't give a shit about pixel picking. They care about the story you're telling, and is it an interesting and engaging image? Are you imparting emotion? So I don't care about pixel pickers anymore. I don't care about minor errors in images, to to be honest either. Right? It's not. I'm fine with it. It's almost like a slightly out of tune note in a song. In many cases, it adds character. It doesn't have to be clinically perfect every single time. And I have friends who are HDR heads who will spend months making it clinically perfect. Their images are fantastic. I'm not discounting their work, but I'm okay with a little slop here and there. Okay, so here we are almost done with sharpening now on the full image. And zoomed out like this, you can really see what's happening here. And here's our preview. So original image, sharpen, and you can see it even out at this scale. A vast. Any questions about noise reduction and sharpening right here? Where you can see this the most is in these dark areas where we zoomed into. So I'm going to save this to Adobe Photoshop, and I'm going to let the Topaz plugin do its thing here, and we're going to go back into Photoshop, where I will then begin post-processing this image using Luminar as a plugin, not the standalone version. How's everybody doing? All right. So here's the image. I'm going to bring it into Luminar now. Styling software, Luminar. I wish I could get rid of this. How do I hide you? I'm going to move pretty quick at this point, and we're going to get through this and be done with this part of things, and that's pretty much it. I'm not going to install the update. I'm going to go to the Edit tab in Luminar. Now, if I hit, I'm just going to blow through things here. So I love this enhance feature. It's a global enhancing to the image. You can see what it's doing to the file. It's also affecting the sky. So what I will typically do is create a mask brush here, and I'll select my foreground. You could do this, let me back up. I can do this with AI. I can hit the AI mask and select just the foreground, the city, which I'll do that and demonstrate that real quick. And this is where Luminar starts to rock because it's just so fast. I'm not getting the entire foreground though. I've got areas that are not going to be affected by my adjustment. So I'm going to go back to the brush, and I'm just going to basically take all of this. Oh, it kept my adjustment. So oh, this is a new feature I just did. So by selecting the AI selections, I can now, I've selected the entire foreground and not the sky. So now I'm going to apply the accent and enhance thing here to just the cityscape, just this part of the image. And you can see what I'm doing. I'm blowing out some highs here. I don't want sky enhancer because that's really not going to affect anything because I haven't selected the sky. So now moving along, I'm going to close this window. I'm going to go back to, now I'm in developing. This is exposure, contrast, highlights, and contrast. I will typically rake my highlights all the way down to control them. If I push them all the way up, you can see it. And quick sidebar, if you're getting into HDR, I encourage people to play with all of these sliders all the way from one side to the other. Go nuts with them, man. You got to learn what they do to figure out what you're doing with the image. Here's shadows all the way out and all the way up. Okay, so I'm already kind of over the top of this image. I really don't need to change the exposure because I'm globally affecting the entire image. Okay, I'm still blowing out my highs here in several places. We'll get to that in a minute. Curve sharpness, I don't need to do sharpness because I already did that in Topaz. Okay, structure is a feature that I really dig. I'm going to go back to the mask. And since I didn't save that mask, I'm going to brush again here. And just take the whole image, the foreground. Oh, I got a little bit of the sky. Oh well. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in on this. I'm going to show you what structure does. So I'm going to boost it. You can see it changing right there. And I'm going to take the amount up into the extreme. Structure seems to affect shadows and gradients inside the image. There's all the way out and here's all the way up. And I can compare, I can click back and forth. I'm actually kind of digging that. So in the mask now, what I can do is I'm going to mask actions. I'm going to copy those mask settings, right? And that's all of that. Let me zoom back out. So that the next adjustment I make, I can apply this mask. So there's structure. I'm going to go to details here and get it on this. And again, with the mask, I'm going to apply. Oops, I don't want to do that. Back out. Mask after paste. I'm pasting that mask in. I'm going to zoom way in on the image again on a prominent part of the image. And I'm going to play with detail. Here's small details all the way up, all the way out, all the way up, all the way out. I bring back, I'm just flying off the seat of my pants here. Here's medium details, and here's large details. You can see how dramatic the large details are. It really starts to look over the top at this point. This is what a lot of people think of when they think of HDR is global adjustments to the image. I'm kind of cool with this right here. I think medium can come down. Actually, large can come down a little bit. There, and small up to bring out these edges. All right. So there's that. Now we get into, you can do all kinds of other fun things with this image. You can, and this is where Luminar just rocks, is that I can now start to apply things, saturation, hue. I'm going to avoid all this. I'm not going to do any of it, but there's a myriad of things. What I want to get to that I love in Luminar, and Photoshop has this too, is dodge and burn. This is where the real fun starts to happen with the nighttime stuff. So this is now a brush that is set to lighten areas of the image. And you have softness, which is all the way. It's a very soft brush, and the strength is at half. I'm going to bring that strength down to about 30, and I'm going to brighten up this dark area over here. And you can see that happening as we speak. If I zoom in on it, I can actually brighten up the roofs themselves, just in this parking lot right here, okay? And this happens very quickly. This area right here, I want to brighten up, okay? This rooftop over here, a little bit of this crowd right here, I'm brightening up. Conversely, I can also darken areas. I'm going to go to darken. I'm going to turn these highs down over here, right? I'm going to turn the highs down in here on the street. And it happens. I'm being really rough with these tools. This is like I'm using a sledgehammer here. But the point is that you can really fast control areas of your image that are causing issues. I used to do this with layer masks in Photoshop, but this dodge and burn tool is fantastic in Luminar. I'm sure Photoshop has it too. Finally, I'm going to go back to lighten over here. I'm going to zoom in on these buildings, and I'm going to bring them up. Like here, if it'll let me. Will you? All right, fine. I'm going to add a little strength, and I'm just going to bring these buildings up in brightness. See what I'm doing here? The skyline, this is. And again, I'm being pretty roughshod. And that building needs to brighten up, and this building needs to brighten up. A little bit more there. Then I'm going to come over here to the rest of the skyline. I'm going to get these buildings, that building, this building, the D Hotel. I want to avoid Fremont Street right here because of how bright it is. And then over here, all the way to the right, if I can get over here, I can't. Why? There, do it this way. Back to dodge and burn. Bright. I'm going to brighten this building up, and down here. A little bit more on the D, a little bit more here. This rooftop needs to come up. I want that brighter. I want this brighter. I want this brighter. I want that brighter. So basically, you can see what we're getting at here is that we've created an HDR image. We've done some tweaking on it, contrast, sharpness, detail, structure, etc. And now we're into kind of the final process here of creating the piece that I want people to see. I want more brightness on that building, a little bit more over here. I'm going to take some more highs down thus by zooming in here. Take those down a little bit. I'm going to take that down and that down. And up in here, I'm going to go do a little highs work. Get rid of some of that. That's blowing out. That's blowing out. This is blowing out over here. This is blowing out over here. The beginning of the D right here, I'm going to bring out the lady's feet and her shoes. Get that with some highs. And Now here's an artistic thing is that I'm going to take this brush and make it huge, and I'm going to lightly create a vignette over here on the corners of the image. Okay, I want your eyes to be pulled into the middle of the frame. So I've manually created. Now these aren't even vignettes, but I'm now taking the attention away from the corners and trying to bring your attention to here at the middle. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. The last thing I would do on this image, I'm going to apply this plugin. The last thing I would do this is straighten these buildings, get my horizon straight. And I'm probably going to crop the bottom here and get rid of the street at the bottom. That street's bugging me. I'm going to lose this purple thing down here, which was some event tent. They were doing something that it may have been an art installation or a stage of some sort. But this street, again, this is not a great image. This is not something I would print and or probably even post. It's part of a panorama. So here's my tweet. And right off the bat, just looking at this, you guys, the buildings are too bright. I would probably bring them back down a little bit. For the purposes of this demonstration, that's fine. So now in Photoshop for straightening and such, I'm going to select all, and I'm going to warp. First thing I'm going to do is warp the image. So I'm going to transform and warp, and I'm going to grab right here, and I'm going to try and straighten my horizon out a little bit, and maybe a little bit over here. That's close. All right. That's the first phase of the straightening. And I'm going to hit done. Get that out of here. And I'm going to do a crop. Okay. I'm going to get rid of this red up here. Come down there. Oh, and I said I was going to do a crop here. Before I crop for final, I'm going to do select all. No, cancel. Select all. And I'm going to skew it now. Skew is going to rake these corners in and get rid of this barrel distortion. Right? See this? I'm going to straighten these buildings up. The best way to do the skew to make your buildings line up is to open a grid. And that's under the View Show Grid command. And now I can make this clinically straight by grabbing this skew. Grab it. And that's pretty good right there. These buildings are leaning way out this way. That's okay there. All right. And I'm going to hit done. And I'm going to shut off my grid because it's annoying. And I'm going to crop it. Now I'm going to, Now I'm going to do my crop that I spoke about a minute ago. I'm going to bring this up. Composition wise, something like that. I like the sky. I'm going to come in and I'm starting to lose part of Fremont Street here, but that's okay. And I'm going to lose this over here to right about there, which nets me after all this work. Oh, still got red. Which nets me this. And that's about it in a nutshell. This image is far from done. I would probably spend several more days on this, which brings up yet another interesting point. This can't be rushed. If you want to do gallery prints and if you want your stuff to get published, for me personally, I'm projecting, I'm sorry. For me personally, I need to sit on this for a few days. I need to get away from this image, go out, stare at the sun, walk my dog, whatever. I got to get away from this and come back to it and look at it fresh. Right now, I have tunnel vision. I cannot objectively view this image and determine whether or not I want to keep it. Will I post this on Facebook? Yeah, I'll post draft versions. I'll put my watermark on it and I'll throw it up on Facebook just to gauge some public opinion and whatnot. But this is not done. In my opinion, we've got too much yellow going on here. We've got too much yellow on these buildings over here. These buildings are a bit too bright. This may be too bright here in the foreground. This part over here may be too bright. But the point is, all I want to get to as we close out here is I've got a working Nighttime HDR, which came from the source files in this folder here. Is anybody still with me? Okay. So that's going to wrap it up. I have recorded this, which is good. Make sure I still got the recording. Oh, good, good. If anybody can hear me, thank you for coming. And that's going to be a wrap. All right. I'm signing off. You guys still here? Anybody still here? All right.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Hey, sure. You guys, I'm on Facebook. If you have any questions, I will save this recording, and I'll post the link to that. I know I tend to get long-winded and get very opinionated about stuff. This is again my art. What I do with my work, what you do may be a completely different animal. And God bless you. And I'm not being sarcastic in any way. The beauty of HDR, one of the beauties of HDR, is that we make the rules, and nobody can tell us we're doing it all wrong. Along with that, I have found that many times when people flame and make comments and pixel pick, they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. They don't do HDR, and they damn sure have not done any post-processing. So why the hell do I care what they think? Just saying. So you guys have a great afternoon. This has been fun, and I'll see you out there on the groups and whatnot. Friend me if you want. I'm pretty accessible, and I'll talk to everybody soon, okay?
Thanks again.
Sure. God bless. Take care.
Thanks for the explanation.